Hi there, this is Linda and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm putting together my Project Life spread for July 6th through July 12th, 2026, and I'm working with supplies from my stash, including the basics kit from Ali Edwards. Let's go ahead and dive right in. Okay, so this is the second week of July, and I did not have a specific kit or anything to work with for this week. So I decided to go into my stash and see what I have. And I have this, which is one of the Stamps Are Fun. And this is the Basics kit from Ali Edwards. So these were previously the One Little Word mini kits. And this year they've been rebranded as the Basics kits, which makes them just very versatile basics. They on their own, I feel like, are not really enough to be a full spread because they don't come with pocket cards. I mean, you could make it for sure, especially if you have a lot of photos, but I think I'm going to supplement it with stuff from my stash, which is good because I want to use up products in my stash, but I also want to use some of these. So I've already opened this kit and I used some of these little labels in a previous spread, but we've also got these circles, which I don't think I'm going to use today. This sticky note pad, which I think is going to be the base of my journaling. We've got some alpha stickers, some felt hearts, some little clips, and some die cuts. So I'm thinking I'm going to mostly use these, and I'm going to pair it with this stamp set to create some journaling spots. So I'm going to go ahead and start by laying out my photos and selecting those. So this week was not a great week again. July has been rough, you know? So we had the finishings of the plumbing work done in our house, which is good. And then we had another bad news for our home projects. So we have been, before we had so if you haven't watched my most recent videos, we had first a plumbing issue and then we had our AC go out. And both of those were super annoying. But before either of those happened, we had originally planned on getting one of our bathrooms redone or decorated. And we're still planning on doing that. But then this week, so that was scheduled to be like the week after this. And then during this week, our contractor flaked out on us, which was super frustrating because we had already purchased supplies. But then we were actually able to get a quote from someone else who we actually decided we liked better and gave us a better price. So hopefully it actually works out in our favor. So I do have some stories to tell. I met my friend Jen for lunch one day, which was very nice. And then just some summertime stories. We made popsicles and cold brew. We've been sitting outside a lot. Lots of crafting. So let's see, I'm just going to go through this. So we've got some different colors in here. We've got this dark green, we've got an orange, a blue, a lime, a teal, and this pink. So I'm going to see how many stories I want to tell. So I want one about meeting up with Jen. So I'm just going to pick colors here. And then I want one about the house stuff. So that'll be about the plumber and our guy flaking out on us, which doesn't really have a photo for it. Then I have one for summertime stories or just little stories from the week. And then let's see, I also had a headache appointment. Been super hot still. I've been reading. So maybe I can do 2 for just life stories. There we go. Okay. And then I need some decorative kind of filler cards. I need something here. I'm not sure. I think I might zigzag like that or something. I'm not sure yet. And I kind of want to do a 5th one, but I don't know that I have a 5th story. I'm just looking to my everyday carry off camera to see what types of, there was a lot of work stress, just stress in general, but I'm just gonna leave it as 4 for now, and then we'll go from there, see if I can come up with enough stories to tell another one. So I'm gonna go to my stash and pick out some cards. I'm primarily looking for filler cards. I'm probably gonna back these with like white or something, because obviously I don't want the backs of other cards showing through. And yeah, we'll go from there. Okay, so I went to grab my summer themed cards, and this was actually from the Cocoa Daisy kit that I used on the previous spread, but it's July and the colors work with these colors. So I'm gonna use that for my title card. And then I'm gonna go through these and see if there is anything else in here I want to use. Okay, so I like that one. It's hard with this right here, so I'm just gonna kind of try to cover that up. Maybe I'm just gonna put this here for now, because that's such bright colors and it's not gonna be part of this spread. And this is also not going to, but it's not as bright. So I think that looks good. I need to go back to my stash and find a few more things. Okay, so I have a lot of empty spots and I don't necessarily want that many filler cards. So I have some like prompt-based journaling and fill-in cards. So I decided to do this one and go through this. And I think that this one actually is perfect for this spread because there was a lot of stress this week. I actually have a few of those, but I'm gonna go through here and see if any more of these work for this spread. Okay, so I just got the one checkoff card here, and then I'm gonna pick maybe one more filler card for now, and then I'll figure out what I'm gonna do with that last one as I start putting it together. But I decided to go through these filler cards, which are my home/relax, because I think that this is a lot of like time at home. And yeah, some of these are kind of fun for this. Maybe that one. Okay, I put a couple here that I think might be good. I feel like this is very like bright, bold colors. Every single one of these is like one color, which is kind of fun, but it might be too much. So I'm gonna start putting this together. I'm gonna do my journaling ones first and set them up and kind of figure out what I'm gonna put on them. And that will give me a better idea of how many journaling cards I actually need, how many filler cards, and what the overall spread is gonna look like. So I'm gonna go ahead and put you guys on voiceover and get this one put together. So I'm going to start with my journaling cards because that is kind of the base of this spread. And so what I'm doing here is kind of coming up with what section each one is going to have and what kind of titles I want. And I usually just try to sketch this out on a sticky note, but I end up kind of abandoning that for this because these words are not that specific. You'll see what I mean when I go through picking from the stamp set. So for the first one, I decided to do house story because that is on those were some of the stamps that were available on this set. So this set has a lot of words that you can use to kind of make your own titles. And I kind of wish that it had home, but it is really more house related stories. So I guess that makes more sense. So I'm using this journaling card to write about the stress related to the home updates for our bathroom redo. And I actually ended up making this one super long and taking the entire card. Oh, hi, pumpkin. So I ended up having 2 cards that are journaling about the house stuff. So this one is just about our bathroom redo, which is coming in a couple of weeks after this. And then I'm going to do another one that is going to be about the plumbing stuff. And then we actually did some home improvement stuff ourselves. So I just added all of those little details onto another card. I'm using a Uniball 1 0.38 pen for my journaling here. This is my current go-to pen, and I'll link it in the description box below. It's just the gel pen that I've really been enjoying. I love the chunky barrel. I know that's not for everyone, but it's super comfy for me. I went into my stash and pulled out some word phrase strips just to add a little something on the base of this card. And then I pulled over some white cardstock from my stash, and I'm just going to crop it down to 3x4 cards. And I'm going to adhere these sticky notes on top of it. They are the perfect size to go in the 3x4 pockets on their own. However, they have those corners cropped off. So you'll be able to see whatever's behind it. And especially on the left-hand side where I already did the back, you can tell that some of those cards behind it are not plain white on the back. If you wanted to be super creative with these, you could use them and put them back to back so they're in 2 separate spreads and have those little corners be like a peek through, which would be really neat, but I don't want to coordinate between 2 spreads, so I'm just going to back them with the white cardstock. So I'm just going to adhere it down with my rolling adhesive, and I'm going to follow this same pattern to do all 4 of my journaling cards. So that one is the house story. And then next I'm going to do this blue one. And on this one, I'm going to end up stamping around here. And I'm going to use this one for the rest of the house related stories. Pumpkin's walking by again. He tends to walk through my craft area a lot because at the top of my desk above where I'm filming is my window. And he loves to sit there and look outside, especially when there is sunshine. So he probably was doing that at this point in time. So anyways, I'm stamping around here. So you'll see from this stamp set, there's a lot of different combinations that you could come up with for titles. And I really love all of the options that are available with this stamp. This is one of the Stamps Are Awesome series. I think this is from maybe a couple of months ago. I'm not sure if it's still available, but it's a super fun one. I think it's one of my favorite ones so far this year. And I'm excited that I'm actually playing with it because if you guys know, I'm kind of not the best at using my stamp sets. I do use the alpha stamps pretty often, but anything beyond that, I kind of forget about them. Even though I have my stamp catalogs and I could do it, I just tend to gravitate towards other supplies, and that's okay. But I do want to use my stamps a bit more, so I'm super happy that I was able to use them on this spread. And honestly, I think they're my favorite part of how this spread came together. These cards definitely are. So I told those 2 house stories on here, and then I'm just pulling another word phrase strip to go across the bottom. I just wanted a little pop of white and something to just kind of complete the card. And I'm going to go ahead and make 4 of these. So the next one here is going to be about Friday. So Friday, I had 2 things that happened. I went to a doctor's appointment in the morning for my headache clinic. If you guys have been following me, I've talked about this over on Instagram. I get horrible migraines. And so I've been going to a clinic to try a few different medications and things to try to minimize my headaches and cure them when they happen. So I had another update appointment this morning. So I journaled a little bit about that. And then in the afternoon, I met my friend Jen for coffee and I guess sort of like a small late lunch. And she was in town dropping a relative off at the airport. So that was nice. And we were able to go to a place called The Scene, which is a newer kind of restaurant or coffee shop in my town that has been there for actually a couple of years. And I keep wanting to go, but I haven't been able to go. So the funny thing was after we went, so it was like the next week, I had a guy come back to my house who has done some work for us in the past, and he was patching the hole in the ceiling from the plumbing work. And he's friends with our wallpaper guy, and he said that they actually did the painting and the wallpapering at this restaurant. And it was kind of funny because I didn't even mention that I had just been there, but I wish I had known that before I went so I could have checked it out in a little more detail, because he's done some work on my house, and the wallpaper guy is going to do some work in the future. So that gives you a little bit of a hint of our upcoming home project, which I will be sharing more about on Instagram this week, as right after this video comes out. So anyways, back to what I'm working on. I'm just doing my journaling here about those 2 stories. So I tend to not do journaling cards just about a specific day unless there's a very eventful day like this one. So I used the stamp to write today's details, and you saw that the S is separate, so you can write detail or details, which is super cool feature of this stamp set. Then I have this last one, and this one I'm going to do this week as my stamping and do some journaling about that, but I accidentally lost the footage of that. So there you go. It's completed now. But that's just like my bullet point list of random stories from the week. So I have my 4 journaling cards completed, and I'm going to go ahead and put them on my spread, lay them out how I want them, and then work on putting the rest of the spread together. I decided to arrange them 2 per side. And then I'm going to work on this feelings card here. So this is just like a checklist of feelings. So I went and got some star stickers from Coco Daisy that were in my stash. These are like little puffy stars, and they're kind of like enamel dots, but they're star shaped. And I'm using them to mark the ones that were my emotions this week, which actually was like every single one of these. And I didn't want to check them all off, so I picked some. But I think that with the feelings card for the entire week, I have so many emotions over the course of a full week that it's kind of hard to narrow it down to just 1 or 2. I'm adhering these 2 cards together in the back with some washi tape so that they can go in this 4x6 pocket. You can see that's what I did on the back as well. And I don't mind that I did that I turned both of these into 3x4s. I really prefer the 3x4 pockets, but I like to have 4x6 as an option because I do occasionally have a horizontal photo and there's some 4x6 cards I want to use. And when you have the 4x6 pockets, you can always turn them into 3x4s, but it's harder to put a 4x6 into 3x4 pockets. You can do it by cropping it in half, but then you're going to have that gap, which just doesn't look as good. And sometimes for some photos, it just doesn't work if it's cutting like between someone's face or something like that. I pulled out some chipboard from my stash that is summer themed, and I'm going to use some of these to embellish some of my photos. I pulled over this one that says Bright Summer Days for this photo of Pumpkin, and I decided I wanted to do a collage of 3 circles. So I pulled out my loose embellishment organization of circles, and I have a video sharing how that's organized. I also have a separate video about my chipboard organization, so I'm going to link all of those down below if you're interested in some of my organizational systems. And then I pulled over some stickers that were also circles, and I'm just layering these 3 circles on here to create a little embellishment cluster. And the only thing that's really unifying about them is they're all circles, but they kind of work to tell the story of what's going on in this spread. And the blue from that one that says Bright Summer Days matches the This Week at Home card. So I feel like it works really well with this spread. I also added the Summer Vibes chipboard onto that card because I wanted just some additional color on there, something to personalize it. And then I'm going to slip everything into the pockets on the left-hand side and move on to the right. So I'm deciding, as I'm slipping this in, I'm going to talk you through. So on the right-hand side, I do want to do some similar embellishing that I've done on the left. So as I work on a spread, especially when I'm working from my stash, I tend to consider what I'm putting into my pockets or on my photos and everything as a recipe. So what I'm doing is just kind of, or like a menu. So I'm trying to pick a menu of options so that I'm not going and looking in my entire stash, every single photo, every single card that I want to embellish. If I went back to my stash for every single photo or every single card, I would never finish the spread. I have so many products in my stash, it would take way too long. So you can see I pulled over those circle stickers, and I also have that tray of circle embellishments on my desk. You can't see it right now, but those things that I pulled over to embellish that photo of pumpkin in the sun are still sitting on my desk, and I'm going to use them again because now I want to embellish this. So I'm just going through some options. So first I just went over to the chipboard. I have the summer themed chipboard out, and so I'm looking to see if one of those is going to work. But what I end up finding is a circle that says July. It just says Jul, actually, which honestly kind of bothers me. I always write July as all 4 letters, even when you're doing abbreviations. But I decided that again is repeating the circle shape. So I'm going to do the same treatment that I did on that last photo of pumpkin. I'm pulling out the circles again, pulling out another one that coordinates with the first one I used, another circle sticker, and just following that same format. This serves 2 purposes. One, I'm able to do this more quickly because I already have that kind of formula or menu of options to pull from. And second, it also makes the spread a little more uniform because everything kind of coordinates across the spread. I like to do embellishment clusters 3 times in a spread, and this one I've only done 2. So I'm thinking about doing another one on here. And I also was thinking about adding in one of these labels to add a little bit of journaling, but I didn't like the way it worked or looked. So I ended up just adding on this one that says next chapter, please, because like I said, this has been a stressful couple of weeks. And then I didn't want it right next to the July card that I had embellished because I didn't want the embellishment clusters, those black circles, to be touching. So I rearranged the cards a little bit, and then I'm going to slip all of these into the pockets. I'm still kind of toying around with what I want everything to look like. If I like the overall spread, I am going to rearrange this a little bit. And then I do want to embellish something on this photo of my book. I don't usually include these photos of my books in my project life. So whenever I finish a book, I take a photo like this in front of my wall so that I can share my review on Instagram. I am not always the best at actually sharing it. Sometimes I take the photo and then never actually post it. So sorry about that. If you like to read my book reviews, let me know and I will try harder to share them. I do share them in a stories highlight or save them in a stories highlight if you're interested to look back on that. But anyways, for this spread, I didn't have as many photos as I had hoped that I would have. Some weeks I just don't take as many. So when that happens, I end up going through the photos I've taken specifically for Instagram, like of my projects and such, and the book photos. So that's why I ended up putting this one in here. And I feel like this book kind of stuck with me a little bit. So it made a little bit of sense to include it. I added some word phrase strips from my stash. I used one of the white ones that I had been pulling from. That was part of my menu for this spread. And then I decided to add a couple of other ones from other colors. And then, so I thought I was done. And then I didn't like that all 3 of those journaling cards were kind of like in a row. So I rearranged them a little bit and I liked it so much better. Here's a look at how that completed spread came together. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And as always, I hope to see you guys all in the next one. Bye.